everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep on flukes, like how these crazy little events can totally change our lives and how seeing that can be, well, kind of amazing. We'll be using Mark Humphrey's book, The Fluke, The Math and Myth of Coincidence, to guide us.
I think what's so interesting about Humphrey's take is how he's not afraid to challenge some of our biggest assumptions about control, like, about how much we really control in life.
Yeah, he dives right in. The book starts with that crazy story of Ivan the tourist getting swept out to sea and then saved by a kid's soccer ball that drifted like 80 miles. Crazy, right?
Totally. Stories like that really show just how much chance is involved, these like totally wild coincidences that shape things. It's like a reality check on how much we think we're in charge. Humphreys even calls it the delusion of individualism.
Whoa, strong words. And kind of true when you think about how much we're told, especially here in the West, that it's all about like individual achievement, being in control.
Exactly. But that's not the only view. I mean, look at Eastern philosophies like Buddhism or Taoism. They're all about interconnection, how nothing stays the same.
So it's not just East versus West. It's about realizing that this whole me, myself, and I view is just one way to see things, not the only way.
Totally. And that's where science comes in. Humphreys uses chaos theory to show how this connection thing plays out on a huge scale.
Chaos theory always blew my mind, but it's also kind of hard to get. Can you break it down for us?
Well, there's that butterfly effect, right? Like a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil and it causes a tornado in Texas. Sounds nuts, but it shows how even the tiniest thing can snowball into huge, totally unpredictable stuff over time.
So, like, it's basically saying we can't predict the long term, whether it's the weather or our lives.
Exactly. Edward Lorenz, the chaos theory guy, he showed this with a weather simulation on a computer. 12 variables. And he found that even tiny rounding errors at the start made totally different results in the long run. Imagine that, but with our lives, with like millions of things interacting in ways we can't even fathom.
It's like the universe is playing this massive game of pool, and every little bump sets off a chain reaction we can't control, you know?
Great analogy. It really hits home how much of life is shaped by things we're not even aware of or can control. We're like part of this giant web, but we usually only see our tiny corner.
Makes you think, doesn't it? How much of what we call choice is really just this interconnectedness thing pushing and pulling us.
Exactly. Humphreys compares it to a tapestry, every thread woven with tons of others. He uses examples too, like Henry Stimson, this guy who went on vacation in 1926, and it kind of led to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, like 20 years later.
Or think about that volcano in Iceland stranding people, or one tiny virus in China causing a pandemic. Like, whoa, we're all affecting each other in ways we don't even see.
And then there's this even crazier idea, the holobiont. Basically, Humphreys says we're not just us, but also like entire ecosystems. We've got trillions of little creatures living inside us, affecting our thoughts and everything.
Wait, are you saying the bacteria in my gut is messing with my mood?
Yep. That's the holobiont idea. It challenges what self even means. Like, imagine swapping cells with Madonna, one by one. When do you stop being you and become her? It gets freaky fast.
Mind blown. So, if we're all connected and our actions cause these huge ripple effects, does that mean our choices don't matter?
Not exactly. It's not about giving up. It's about realizing we can't control everything, but we can influence a lot.
So it's about changing how we see things, moving from this illusion of control to understanding that we're part of something much bigger.
Exactly. And that's what we'll get into in the next part of our deep dive. This shift in perspective, it can be freeing, powerful even.
Yeah.
It's funny, even when we see how connected everything is and how much chance plays a role, we still kind of want to believe that things happen for a reason.
It's comforting, right? Like there's some big plan even if we don't get it. But yeah, Humphrey says wanting that order so much can make us miss how much flukes really matter.
Exactly. We look for cause and effect even where it doesn't exist. We want a story even if it's not totally true, is how we make sense of things,
And he doesn't just keep it abstract and philosophical. He links it to how we see history. What's an example of that?
Well, like we talked about with Henry Stimson, his vacation, and how it weirdly connected to the Hiroshima bombing. It shows how something seemingly small can have these massive consequences.
It makes you wonder how many other big moments in history were swayed by those kinds of flukes. Things we've fit into a nice cause and effect story without really seeing the role of chance.
Yeah, can we ever really separate what's intentional from what's accidental? Like, is it all just perspective, how we frame things to fit our worldview?
Okay, but even if we can't predict everything perfectly, can't we at least up our chances of success? We've got so much data now, algorithms, AI, surely we can minimize the impact of flukes, right?
That's the hope. But Humphreys points out the more connected and complex the world gets, the more we're open to what he calls black swan events.
Black swan events. Remind me what those are again.
They're the totally unexpected high-impact things that blindside us, like the 2008 financial crash or the COVID pandemic. They seem to come out of nowhere and have massive, unpredictable consequences.
So those are like flukes, but amplified by how interconnected our global systems are.
Exactly. And they remind us no matter how much data or fancy tech we have, we'll always be vulnerable to these unpredictable game-changing events.
So it's not that we can't learn from the past or prepare for some things. It's that flukes, by their nature, defy our expectations. They come from this mix of factors we can't fully grasp.
Exactly. But I wouldn't say they're completely random either. Humphrey says flukes come from how complex the world is.
Yeah.
It's not just that we lack the knowledge or tools. It's that the universe itself is constantly evolving, creating new possibilities and connections we can't foresee.
So it's not just our limited view, but the universe itself being a source of novelty and surprise.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it ties back to interconnectedness. The more connections there are, the greater the chance for unforeseen interactions and unexpected outcomes.
This brings up free will. If flukes are so important, these events outside our control, does that mean we don't really have a choice in how things go?
That's a question philosophers have been debating forever. It's not that our choices don't matter. It's that the context where we make those choices is always shifting, influenced by tons of things beyond our grasp.
It's like we're playing a game where the rules keep changing, and we don't even know all the players or their motives.
That's a good analogy. It shows we need humility and a willingness to adapt. We may not totally understand the forces at work, but that doesn't mean we're powerless.
So how do we deal with this chaotic reality without giving in to despair or nihilism? If we can't control everything, what's the point of even trying?
That's where Humphreys gets surprisingly hopeful. He says recognizing our interconnectedness and accepting flukes can actually lead to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Really, I'd like to hear more about that. How does embracing chaos make life better?
Think back to that delusion of individualism. When we believe we're solely responsible for everything, it puts so much pressure on us. Like we're carrying the weight of the world.
And when things inevitably go wrong, we blame ourselves, right? It's a recipe for anxiety and self-doubt.
Exactly. But when we acknowledge flukes, when we accept we can't control everything, it lifts that blame off our shoulders.
So instead of trying to micromanage every detail of our lives, we can focus on what we can influence, knowing the universe will always throw us a curveball.
Precisely. And here's the beautiful part. When we let go of that need for total control, it opens us to new possibilities. We become more adaptable, more resilient, more open to the serendipitous twists and turns life throws our way.
It's like we're learning to surf the waves instead of trying to control the ocean.
Exactly. And that surrender, paradoxically, can make us feel more in control. We might not control the waves, but we can learn to ride them.
This makes me rethink how we see success and failure. If flukes are such a big deal, does that mean hard work and talent aren't as important as we thought?
It's not that those things don't matter. It's that we need to see how they contribute to outcomes differently. Humphrey suggests success is often preparation meeting opportunity.
So we still got to put in the effort, hone our skills, go after our goals, but also be open to the chance that a lucky break or a chance encounter could change everything.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our efforts, combined with a bit of serendipity, can lead to things we could never have planned for or imagined.
This has really made me question how the world works. If flukes are so woven into our lives, how do we find meaning when things often feel random and unpredictable?
That's a great question, and it takes us to the last part of our deep dive. How do we make decisions, build relationships, and find purpose when we can't control everything? Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've looked at the science of how everything's connected and how those flukes really shape our lives. But now the big question is, what does it all mean for us, like practically? How do we use this knowledge in our everyday decisions and relationships?
Well, it's interesting. Humphreys doesn't give you a rule book or a step-by-step plan. Instead, he wants us to change our mindset, how we view the world, to embrace both intention and chance, see how our actions and the unpredictable kind of work together.
So it's less about having the right answers and more about being open to the unknown and rolling with the punches.
Exactly. It's about knowing we can't control everything, but also realizing that our choices matter, even the small ones. We might not always see the full ripple effect, but that doesn't make them less important.
It's like that quote we talked about, we control nothing but influence everything.
Kind of mind bender, right?
Yeah.
Scary, but also kind of empowering.
Totally. It pushes us to be aware of the choices we make, to act with intention knowing that what we do adds to this giant web of connections, even if we can't predict or even see the outcomes.
So how do we make decisions then? When we know flukes are always possible, do we just throw our hands up and say, whatever happens, happens? Not at all. It's not about being passive. It's about finding that balance between planning and being flexible. We can set goals, make smart choices based on what we know, but also be ready to change course when something unexpected pops up.
So, like setting sail with a map and compass, but being ready to change direction if you hit a storm or find a new island.
Love that analogy. It's about embracing those unexpected turns, realizing that sometimes the best opportunities come from those unplanned detours, the things that mess up our perfect plans.
Makes me think about relationships, too. If our lives are so intertwined, how do we approach love, friendships, family, knowing that flukes can bring people in or rip them away in a flash?
Big question, right? Do we see relationships as something we build through effort? Or do we acknowledge those chance meetings, those moments that pull us together?
I think it's both. We can choose to nurture the relationships that matter to us, but also accept that some connections are brief, like shooting stems that light up our path for a moment.
And maybe the key is appreciating that connection, how our lives touch others, whether it's for a short time or a lifetime.
It's like realizing that every interaction, every little bump in, can shape us even if we don't see its full meaning right away.
Exactly. And that awareness,
Yeah.
that sensitivity to the web of connection, it can make us appreciate the people in our lives even more. The ones who stay and the ones who are just passing through.
So, if we can't control everything, if flukes are just part of being human, how do we find meaning and purpose? Does it all just come down to random chance?
Humphrey says meaning isn't something we find out there. It's something we make through our actions, our connections, how we choose to be in the world. It's about seeing our place in the grand scheme of things, appreciating what ties us to others and to something bigger than ourselves.
So, even if our lives are short, like little sparks in the grand scheme of things, the impact of our choices, the ripples we make, can last way beyond our own time.
Exactly. It's humbling but also inspiring,
Yeah.
knowing that even small acts of kindness, creativity, courage can be part of something bigger, that they can echo through time and touch others in ways we might never know.
It's like we're all in this huge orchestra, each playing our own instrument, adding to a melody that goes beyond time and space.
And the beautiful thing is we don't need to know the whole score to play our part.
Yeah.
We can just focus on playing our notes with feeling, with passion, with that sense of being connected to something larger, knowing that the music we make, the ripples we send out, will keep going long after we're gone.
This deep dive has really changed how I see things. It's a little scary, but also freeing to recognize the power of flukes, to accept that we're all connected, and to see that uncertainty isn't something to be afraid of. It's part of this amazing journey we call life.
And maybe that's the message for our listeners today. Uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's a chance to embrace the unexpected, to find joy in those random moments, and to create meaning in a world that's always changing, always surprising us with new possibilities.
So as we wrap up this exploration of flukes and connections, we want you to think about this. What seemingly small choice will you make today that might set off a chain reaction, changing your world or even the world around you in ways you can't even imagine? Embrace those flukes, be mindful of your ripples, and never underestimate the power of being connected. Thanks for joining.